Taken there by Barry John. Barry John, can he make it? Oh, what a try!
Next on MLR Weekly, CEO and General Manager of the Chicago Hounds, James English, Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, and John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Welcome to MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thank you for joining us once again. Your patronage is much appreciated, and we think you'll find it worthwhile because we have a great show, including CEO and General Manager of Chicago's Hounds, James English. We have Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, and he's got a lot to say. But before we get to any of that, we have our recurring segment, Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with John Fitzpatrick out of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., because it's America. John, welcome. How are you? What do you got?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing great. I just got a haircut. Looks like you got one, too, so we are looking spiffy.
I cut hair number 1 and hair number 2. Next.
Matt, you probably saw the news, but Anthem Rugby Carolina, or Anthem for short, they finally got around to releasing their roster and their head coach Alama Iramia, who's currently the USA Eagles attack coach. He's going to be overseeing the squad. And if you took a look at that roster, it's a young one. Definitely a lot of young, developing American talent. There are 2 capped Eagles, 1 in 15s. That would be Jake Turnbull, and then 1 in 7s. That would be former American Raptors product, crossover guy, David Still. Matt McCarthy, you've seen the roster. Give us the skinny. How are they going to perform this year?
Well, you know what? They're going to, blood and guts, Old Glory. They're going to have the spirit of 76 with them. I think, we're going to go out there and tackle and chase and kick and punch back when they're punched. I think they're going to do okay. How about that? Enough cliches? Next.
Well, Matt, how are the Anthem going to look on the field? And what I mean by that is they also released their jerseys. Little hints and colors of the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is kind of more Virginia, but, I won't quibble with that too much. What do you think of the jerseys?
North Carolina, Charlotte specifically. Look at the Panthers, look at the Tar Heels. They're all in that color blue. You don't know anything about sports, do you?
I don't know a thing. I clearly don't know a thing. But I think it's nice to note, and I thought this was interesting, the 3 stripes in the A in Anthem, they symbolize the collaboration between Major League Rugby, USA Rugby, and World Rugby. I thought it was a guitar, but actually it's just 3 stripes.
It also looks like the span of a bridge, but were they smoking a lot of weed when they came up with that? Are we supposed to know that? Is that a new thing, or is that subliminal? Wait, how do you know that? What? 3 strings? What?
Well, which logo is better, the Anthem logo or your head as the RFCLA logo?
It's an acorn, okay? It's an acorn. But let me just point out, I like these jerseys. I like these kits. And I especially like the 2 James Bond women sitting on the top right of the jersey back to back. Next.
Yeah, you clearly know sports. Moving on, Matt. An interesting thing here. I was wondering if you saw this, but some rumors around there, potentially Super Rugby wanting to put a franchise in the United States of America. What do you make of all of that?
Next.
Matt, that is all I got. I've got to say, coming up on some preseason games here in MLR, we're going to see some teams trot out some players, get some game action in.
All right, on that note, I want to thank Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning's Coffee Break. We're going to bring in Mr. James English, the General Manager and CEO of the Chicago Hounds, after this.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we are back with the CEO/general manager of the Chicago Hounds, Mr. James English. James, welcome to MLR Weekly.
Matt, how are you? Good to be back.
Good to see you, sir. Full disclosure, James, we have known each other for a while for the fans at home, and it began with your days coaching my beloved New York Rugby Club, not to be confused with Rugby New York, right? And then
that's correct. I've been trying to shake you off for many years, Matt, but it's not worked very well.
Well, you know what? You coached the women to a national championship for the New York Rugby Club, so I'm forever grateful to you. And it seems like it was decades ago when you were in the cauldron that is now spilled over. That was Rugby New York or Rugby United New York, aka RUNY. And yeah, it seems like decades.
That was a tough one as well. It's tough to see. A lot of people put a huge amount of work over the years into building that, and for the players and for the staff there currently, and for the staff that have been there in the past, it's it's very sad to see. And let's hope that at some point we can try and get something in New York back again, right?
Yeah, you know what? I'm tired of peanut butter sandwiches now because it's like everybody else here. There was an aspect of the gig that went away, but. Let's get back to you, sir. Not only did you survive those days in New York, but now you're thriving in the Windy City. How do you describe this whirlwind in the Windy City from the Big Apple? Look,
the weather's very similar, and I think Chicago's a little bit like a small New York. But the people love their sports here, and they're full of energy. It's pretty infectious. And look, I think that we survived year one here, to be honest. It was a bit of a similar whirlwind, a different circumstance to New York, but we're here now, and we've got through year one, and we've laid the foundations, and we're pretty excited about what we've been doing in this off season as we look forward to season 2.
All right, so let me ask you this question: what does James English 2024 say to James English 2023 at this same time last year?
That's a great question. Look, I don't think we learned a huge amount. We got a lot wrong. I don't know if I would. I think you've got to get things wrong to get it right. So I'm not going to beat myself up around where we were last year. I think that we didn't realise MLR gets better every year, and I think we were in a situation where we were naive enough to think that picking up players from a couple of defunct teams was going to be enough to build a team. But what you realise when you're in this game is that you can't just create teams. You do have to build teams, and building takes time. For us, we were a team that was thrown together really quickly, and we had some great players, and the players that did play for us did a phenomenal job, and we were really competitive for most of the year and had some fantastic games. But we are not, and the city of Chicago isn't just happy to compete. They want to win championships, and we put a bit of work in this year to identify who we are as an organisation, what we want to be known for, what we're about, and then kind of look to develop a style of rugby around that. And we've gone out and we've recruited players that fit that style and those profiles. So I think you'll see much more of an aligned vision from the top down, from a business point of view, which will then hopefully reflect on how we play on the field. We're really excited about the squad we put together this year. It's a really strong squad. We've put more resources into the coaching as well, and we've tried to identify areas that we were weak, and we've just got stronger, and I think that the MLR isn't probably ready for what we're going to unleash on them this year. But at the same time, culturally, these guys have shown that they can come in and perform at the highest level. And if you look at Mark O'Keefe, who I brought into the league at New York, and he's in our very first year, and now this is a guy who's US eligible and will be competing for a USA spot this year. All the way through to the likes of Dave Carney and Nick McCarthy now coming over from Leinster, the stuff that we learn and the impact on the players.
Oh, those guys.
Yeah. The impact and the stuff that our players can learn from guys like that is phenomenal. And look, they're just they're great guys, and they've come in with great energy, and it's contagious, and it's definitely rubbed off on some of the other lads. So yes, I would agree with you on that. But I do think if you look at our roster, you'll see a pretty big, heavy commitment to US and domestic talent, and that's, I think, a big part of what we want to be about. And you'll see a lot of those guys this year.
Well, for a city that dyes its river green on St. Patrick's Day, you got the right logo. You got a bunch of the right funny talkers, just enough to get the fans interested in all that, too. And with you sitting in front of that logo, you look like the Irish Messiah. You look a little bit like Jesus with the little globe on.
A guy with a London accent, it doesn't go down quite so well, I guess. But yeah, and look, we've looked outside of that this year as well. You're going to see 2 Uruguayans coming from the World Cup in the front row. There's a couple of South Africans in there that we've brought in as well. So there's definitely a nice kind of cultural split in the group, but I think you'll definitely see a bit of an Irish twang to it.
I want you to take me back to the collapse of New York and the aftermath, and how getting the butcher, Dylan Fawcett, out there. How did that transpire?
Look, when Dylan came back on the market, he's someone that I've always said that I'd love to reconnect with from a rugby point of view. He's a pleasure to work with, and his energy is truly infectious. He talked to me a little bit about how when he's in a group, he loves to be an energy giver, and it really sums him up. Like, he's not the sort of guy who comes into a group and the first thing he says in the morning is complain about how cold it is outside or how his coffee was too expensive. He comes in and the first 2 or 3 things he says is positive, and he shakes hands and he kisses babies, and he really gets people going, and people love to be around him. So not to just pick on him in particular, but just an example, when he was, as soon as he was available, it was my first phone call, and luckily he's a guy who's kind of likes to work with people he trusts as well, and having worked together in the past, he committed to come and join us here and around our vision in Chicago. He really bought into it, and I know that he's gone in true Dylan Fawcett style, bought straight into it, head and feet. Moved his wife and his children, his baby family are here now as well, arrived this week, and they're really enjoying Chicago so far. Dylan aside, we've got likes of Nate coming in from San Diego, and some other big characters like Lucas Rumble, who's a Canadian international and captain, who have all been there and done it and understand what it takes to be successful. So huge characters, huge pickups for us, but we know that that's only half the job, is bringing these guys in. You've still got to put a process in place and set them up to be successful. So hopefully we can do that.
I'm just wondering, there's only one rugby ball on the pitch at a time, and you've got all these playmakers. I mean, you've got 3 starting scrum halves, and you're going to put, Nate's going to play on the wing, I would imagine, but you've got all this quality just at the number 9 position. How do you juggle this? I mean, Sam's got, this is a tough job for Sam.
It is, but what a great difficult position to be in. I think that what we've seen in the MLR is the struggle that we had last year coming in so quickly was we couldn't build a squad with any depth. We probably had a good 15, 16, 17 players, and then we started to really drop off a little bit. And I think in the MLR, the teams that have shown continued success, the New Englands, the San Diegos, have shown really good consistency around the depth of their squad. You've got to have 2 or 3 guys who can compete and play at the top level to push each other, and so no one feels comfortable at any point.
I'm looking at your roster, and I see 4 quality scrum halves. Right.
I mean, yeah. And what we've got there is guys that like Michael Basker, who is capped at 9, but is also could play and has played MLR at wing and started as a 15. And that versatility means that we are, and being, domestic means that, it creates a lot of opportunity for us in other positions on the field as well. So look, we've tried to be very calculated in how we do this. And the biggest thing it comes down to, Matt, is just like trying to sign people with the right attitude, who want to be here, who want to be a part of what we're doing. Like selling that vision and mission and having them buy into it is the hard part. And but like it's been shown that the best squad don't win this league, and there's a lot more that goes into it. And hopefully, you're right, Sam. It's a tough one for Sam.
Wow, was that a slight of New England?
No.
You just wait a minute. You just said it's been proven that the best team doesn't win the championship.
I think New England have done a great job, as have many other teams, and Tom Ginley there and Alex Magleby have done a phenomenal job of what they're doing. But look, I'm fed up of like last year with us not winning, and we want to go out there and look, everyone loves a winning team, and Chicago in particular. Chicago is a tough sports market. it's not had a winning team in a while, and we think there's an opportunity there that if we can really start getting people excited about rugby and build some momentum, then people are going to jump on the bandwagon. But I mean, the big thing is, like you said, it's tough for Sam, but the pressure's going to be on him now. Like, he knows that he's got a good squad, he's got a great facility, he's got some great staff. I back Sam 110% all time. He's a great coach and a great person, and I have no doubt that he's gonna put a team on the field that's going to be excited to get out there, play an interesting brand of rugby, and also win some games.
Heavy the crown of expectations in this case. Forget what everybody else is saying. What are your expectations for the Hounds 2024?
You're only as good as your last season, right, Matt? So that in some ways that there isn't a ton of expectation on us. If we can win more than 3 games, we've done a better job than we did last year. But no excuses here. We are setting ourselves out for something bigger than that. I'd love us to challenge for an MLR championship this year and win an MLR championship. But essentially, my job comes down to hopefully, if this team exists in 3 or 5 years or 10 years' time, and we're in a better position than we are now, then I've done a really good job here. So it's a balance of the two. As we've seen in New York, you can go out and win a championship, and it doesn't mean that you're going to have success as a rugby organisation. So yes, we want to win an MLR, but I want to show that rugby is sustainable and that it can work as a business. And Chicago is a great market for that.
All right, I got one thing that I'm really reaching for here. You let a kid, or you traded a kid named Juan Penn from St. Bonaventure to the Anthem, right? And I know with your Irish background that Juan means Sean. So you basically traded Sean Penn, which we could have used as a marketing bonanza for clicks.
That's true. But look, Matt, you're a talented guy like you. There's no doubt you're going to find some other marketing clicks in our squad that you can use throughout the year anyway.
All right. So, okay. Final question for you. If the Chicago Hounds don't win the Shield, who will?
It's a great question. I think that it could be any one of 3 or 4 teams this year. And again, I think you're only as strong as the year before. I think some of the squads this year have all got better. I think it's going to be the most competitive MLR that we've seen, and probably the best quality MLR rugby-wise that we've seen as well. And that's, from a league perspective, that's all we want. Look, I think Chicago, it'd be great to see us bring a trophy home this year. And if not, I don't think I'll be particularly happy seeing anyone else, but, you deal with it.
Right. Mr. James English, CEO and General Manager of Chicago Hounds. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Matt. Great to have you. Very appreciate you having us on.
All right. We'll be right back with Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News after this.
I wouldn't like to be at the bottom of that.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? And we're back with Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. Once again, Bryan, welcome to MLR Weekly.
It's fantastic to be here and to be in sunny San Diego and not actually buried in a pile of snow in the east of Canada.
So you're at the Snap Dragon Stadium and you're wearing your Rugby New York Ironworkers ball cap.
Confusing indeed, I understand, but I'm just trying to remember those teams that have left us, are dearly departed, and as we inch closer to this regular season without those teams, I continue to get sad and hope that they'll magically just reappear.
Well, you're an oxymoron because you're an insensitive Canadian, in that the New York fans will all remember Joe Peterson making that ridiculous kick from the sideline and New York being handed a loss in a playoff match that would have sent them to the final in San Diego.
I was hoping to get that rematch in the postseason this year. A little San Diego, New York action would have been fantastic there, but alas, here we are.
Like, that's a slight of your New England Free Jacks?
They could have been in the other semifinal.
All right. Okay. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the anthem? I know you got some coaching stuff that you want to bring up. What do you want to go with first?
Yeah, well, sure, we can talk about Anthem. That's probably the hottest topic of last week, or at least it should have been, really, after all the, the waiting. Not really a lot of waiting, to be honest, since they announced the team only a couple of weeks, but some people were getting antsy waiting for that roster.
Have you cooled down enough after that excitement that you had? Your temperature boiling over, the mercury rising in your head after that transaction between San Diego and the Anthem? Are you okay now?
I'm kind of relieved to see that it appears that nobody else has, pilfered themselves an extra foreign player slot for their 23, although it is convenient that it's San Diego, of all people, who have managed to get one from them. I don't know how that worked out, but, conspiracy theorists run wild with that one.
Well, it wasn't lost because I had different people tell me that they watched the show and they said, I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, he's right. Yeah, he's right. So kudos, my friend. You have to show the people the way sometimes.
I don't begrudge other people being frustrated and angry with things that go on around Major League Rugby. I just want them to have a point and not just scream out they don't like something and keep moving the goalposts constantly, which is what a lot of people tend to do. And they did that a lot with this Anthem team, and they're still doing it, some of them, after seeing the roster. But I got to be honest, I look at the roster and I'm okay with it. I don't think they're going to be 100-0 blowouts by any stretch of the imagination. There's some solid players in this roster. We kind of speculated it'd be 5, 6, or at least that was kind of what we were informed, half a dozen maybe non-U.S. eligible guys. So I thought around 6. Turns out it's 8 technically, but kind of 7 plus Rivers. Rivers is going to qualify later this year, so he's kind of an exception, I guess you would say. 7 guys to kind of keep them afloat or competitive in the first year who aren't U.S. eligible. That's not bad. I just hope that we see lots of opportunities for these young American guys, and really that's what this all about, is giving these guys a chance to show what they can do.
Does James Rivers become eligible during the season or after the season?
No, it'll be this fall. So it'll be right. He arrived just before that university fall of, 2019. So it'll be this fall. So September, around there, he'll be officially USL. He's already been training in the fall with the U.S. development side. So he's very much on their radar. It's just a matter of fulfilling those residency requirements. Okay.
All right. And then he goes back to San Diego next year, which just wanted to see if I could get you angry again.
Oh, I like that. I'm okay with that. I think more teams should. If you look at this roster,
why not stay with the Anthem?
I don't know.
It's not a trade. It's a loan.
I'd like to see other teams do the same thing. These guys, the younger guys who aren't necessarily going to get on their team. There's a few guys around the league right now. I'm looking at rosters. At San Diego, speaking of them, they've got 4 guys at loosehead prop, all of them outstanding. Peyton Talia Ilalio coming in, a really promising guy. How much game time is he going to get? Might it have been a better idea to send him up? I mean, obviously they want to keep the guys good, but they've got DJ Sears-Duro, they've got Nate Sylvia, they've got OT Pifoletti. I mean, you can't play all of them at once, right? So share the love a little bit and get these guys some game time. For me, especially looking at the real younger guys on the rosters and a couple teenagers on there. Tavita Kutu, this young flag, is 18 years old, I think, coming out of Utah, played high school football at a pretty good level. He was getting looked at for college football. So there's a guy, you want those guys. Logan Widener, who sadly seems to have been lost to Canadian rugby. He's 21 years old, 6'5", 6'6", a guy who can play lock, back row. These guys get more time. Dylan Fortune, 19 years old, he'll be turning 20 this coming year. Out of Lindenwood, a number 8, played with the U20s with USA last year. We need to see more of these guys, the 19, 20, 21-year-olds getting time in MLR. So it's great to see them in the roster. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Anthem. And that coaching thing that kind of went over my head last week is quite interesting over in Seattle.
And you're talking about Chris Latham, the all-world fullback who coached at Utah, correct?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the great fullbacks in the professional era of any team. If you ask anybody, I mean, Australia was blessed to have two of them at once, Matt Burke and Chris Latham, but Latham was a superb player.
Yeah. And
he came over, he had kind of a short-lived tenure in Utah, but he did all right. Well, he was there. Well, he's just all of a sudden showed up magically in Seattle. I just happened to be looking at their social media feed and saw him in training, running some drills. Wait a minute, what's going on here? And looked at, some of their social media feeds and saw this little video of him saying, hey, here I am in, Seattle, going to be the assistant coach and all this. And I'm like, why didn't they make a bigger deal of this? It wasn't even on all their social media channels. There's no article on their website. This is an incredibly accomplished player who's got tremendous experience and, is certain to be a great coach. I don't know why you wouldn't want to, advertise that, not just for the league, for the club. I mean, this isn't some nobody. So it kind of baffles me. That was kind of my point in posting the thing that I did on Twitter, is that there was no mention at all on Twitter. It couldn't even Google Latham and Seawolves, and it didn't show up anything. And, or on Twitter, searching there.
Brian, Twitter no longer exists.
Right, X. Okay.
You're in the sunshine of San Diego, for crying out loud. Unwind, let it go, relax.
Maybe next week.
Go for a swim.
Maybe I'll calm down in time to travel down to glorious San Diego to watch that. What game do you go to see? Do you go see the Eagles versus Fiji, or do you go to the final 2 weeks later in San Diego? How do you choose?
You take your 2-week vacation and you go to San Diego, and problem solved.
Well, I didn't even think of that, but
and you can skip up to LA. Skip up to LA in the middle week.
You're planning my road trip already.
I asked James English, if the Chicago Hounds don't win the Shield, who will win the Shield? I want to ask you that question, Brian. Right now, who's your Shield winner?
That's the same question you asked the last time you asked me that.
Well, there's stuff that's changed.
You're right. Things have changed. Boy, it's kind of hard not to look at San Diego now. I mean, now they've got Matt Giteau, who's come in, and now they've got that extra foreign player spot in their 23. They just have ridiculous depth on that team. A lot going for them. I'd pick San Diego if I had to today, but I'm not counting out those Free Jacks. Free Jacks, San Diego, repeat in the final.
So you're not counting out the no-named New England Free Jacks. All right.
I'm counting them. Defending champion New England Free Jacks. Let's show them some respect there, Mr. McCarthy.
Hey, I'm the one that's pointing out that you're slagging them. What the hell? James English did the same thing. I'm like, wait a minute. All right. On that note, I want to thank Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, Mr. James English, the CEO and General Manager of the Chicago Hounds, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds, College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Check out our newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.